Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me today. Today I want to talk about what I would do differently if I was to recollect all of my Blu-ray and DVD and physical media collection again right now at this point in time in 2024. So I've spent a lot on this collection as I did in my cost video. I've spent a lot on just the Blu-ray iteration. I didn't go into cost in that video about DVD, Laserdisc, VCD, VHS. I didn't go into any other cost breakdowns besides Blu-ray. So how would I recommend new collectors to purchase, and what were the mistakes I made that maybe new collectors can avoid? That's what I'm going to try to tell you today. And this is, if you're a new collector, this video will be very beneficial to you. Maybe you can take a few tips and tricks from an experienced buyer and know where the gaps in the industry are and where you can kind of like cut some corners and not make the same mistakes I did. So let's start with 4K. When I was recollecting my new collection, I call this the newer collection, the second iteration of my collection, the second version of my collection actually, because I originally had a collection back in 2013, 2012, somewhere back there. Now, when I went to the digital age, I got rid of all the cases and kept all the discs in binders. It was a big mistake, but it's where I was at the time. So when I recollected in 2020, I knew the covers were important. And I didn't want to reprint the covers for my old collection and pull them out of binders. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to recollect it again. So one of the things I did really early on was like, what do I want and what do I need in my collection? I looked at the 4K copies, obviously, because JB Hi-Fi were having many sales around that time in 2020 to try to keep alive during the changed state of the world. So I was obviously looking at 4Ks back then. I could get like 2 for 40. Obviously you can do better now with some of these, but back then that was a really good deal. Something like 2 for 50 was also a good deal when I couldn't really get anything. Like, I was really looking at 4K copies as like, this is what I want as the bedrock of my collection. It was considered to be the bedrock of my collection. So if I was to recollect my 4K collection right now in 2024, what I would do is I would look at places like CEX and eBay and Facebook Marketplace and Amazon. Like, there are many different avenues where you can get these releases from for a fraction of the price that I would have paid at JB Hi-Fi. But also I would recommend that you look at what JB Hi-Fi have on sale and adjust accordingly. If you think it's a good deal for what you want in your collection, great. If you see value in that, go out and buy it at that price. And there is no reason why paying more is a bad thing. And everyone's saying, yes, cost of living, I'm aware of it. But look, if it's something that you're going to appreciate, then there is no reason why an extra dollar or two to get it right there and then is a bad thing. I mean, something like, and you've also got to consider that once a sale happens, many people are all going to be thinking the same thing as you and say, okay, I'm going to go during the sale. And you might not get that copy during the sale. So it depends how badly you want it. Are you willing to wait for another month for the next sale? Or will you be hurt if you wait for that sale and it's not there and you can't get it at that point in time? These are questions you need to ask. For me, I was just happy to say, okay, I'll just wait till the sales, and if I don't get it in that sale, I'll wait till the next one. It wasn't a bigger deal to me. So what I would do differently is, for 4K, I would recommend looking at places like CEX, looking at places like Facebook Marketplace, looking at places like eBay, looking at places like second-hand shops around the towns you live in. There is a lot of access to cheap movies these days and cheap Blu-rays. You can probably pick up stuff that JB Hi-Fi, for example, would be selling at retail for a fraction of the price on the second-hand market. Of course, you have to have reservations about the second-hand market because there may be scratches. You'll need to check the disc before you buy it. With Blu-ray, they tend to hold up really well, but DVDs especially, you need to be very careful of what you're actually getting. And so yeah, with 4K, I would recommend secondary market, unless it's something that you definitely want in your collection and are willing to pay full price or wait for a sale at JB Hi-Fi, in which case I would say just get it that way. It's in your collection, it's what you want, and it's what you're going to watch. So if you feel you can get your money's worth out of it, it's okay to spend a bit extra and get it from JB Hi-Fi. For Blu-rays, I would definitely recommend fully second-hand market. I mean, a lot of this, yes, a lot of this is still coming out, so you can get stuff at JB Hi-Fi that newer releases. But I would always say, for Blu-rays especially and DVDs, secondhand market. Just go to the secondhand market, and as I said with 4Ks, you can wait for a sale at JB Hi-Fi if there's one you really want and you cannot find anywhere else. But if you're collecting many different Blu-rays and you saw like a deal on eBay for 100 of them for like $10 or something, then that's a great deal. Like, you got to admit that is a really good deal. Not that you're going to see a deal like that, but you know what I'm saying. Like, you could get a lot more for your dollar if you were to buy on the secondhand market or from ex-collectors. So what happens in a lot of cases is people will upgrade to the 4K copy and offload their old copy on eBay. That's what happened with Dawn of the Dead. Like, I kept my version of Dawn of the Dead on Blu-ray, but when I upgraded to the 4K, it was definitely a consideration that I sell it and push on the DVD copy and Blu-ray copy. Obviously, I kept it for special features because there are some special features on the Blu-ray that are not on the 4K version. So that is why I chose to keep it. But there are a lot of collectors who just want to offload and would want to just have the 4K version available and not keep the older versions. This is where you come in and you can acquire some of these movies you really want. Now, obviously, something like Dawn of the Dead will go for a bit more money than a typical Blu-ray because it's very rare, it's very out of print, it's very hard to get. Obviously, people will say, oh, you can get everything in the digital age, you can just hoist a Jolly Roger, but you want to have the cover, you want to have the experience. So just ignore those people. They don't, if that's what works for them, that's what works for them. It doesn't work for us. So that's your chance to really get in and say, okay, I may have to pay $45 for Dawn of the Dead, but it's rare, it's out of print, it'll probably hold its value, but there is a 4K version out there, and if they decide to do a widespread release of the 4K version in like JB Hi-Fi or something, for example, then your version might drop in cost, but always be aware of where the market is. So if you don't need Dawn of the Dead or something right at this point in time, it doesn't hurt to wait. And as you hear a plane go over, that brings me to my next topic. How far are you willing to travel to get a really good deal? So obviously you're not going to be catching a plane like that plane going over just then, but, or maybe you are. Maybe there's a very rare copy in another country or another state and you're willing to make the travel to get that copy. But for example, I traveled many kilometers to get something very rare when I was starting out my Blu-ray collection again. And it was something that was in my original collection that I tore down and I regretted. And that was the Star Wars, not Star Wars, Star Trek. Don't slay me. It's a easy mistake to make. So yeah, Star Trek, Captain Kirk. Yeah, I had to have this in my collection. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. I can go back and watch this endlessly, but the only thing is that I had to have it in this form. I had to have it in its case. I had to have the original 3 in these slip covers. I needed to have it as it was released, this one. So let's put that back there. Let's put that there. So I traveled many kilometers to get that release in particular, and I found it at CEX because CEX, someone had traded it in, obviously, and that was being sold at, I believe, like 85, maybe 115. I don't remember exact cost for that. It is in my book out somewhere else, in another room. But I did pay a good amount for that release, but I needed it. I wanted that in my collection. It had to be there. So I had to pay a bit more to get it. But I got a really good deal. I mean, this is something that it held its value, obviously. I mean, CEX was basically selling it for retail price. But for me, it was a small price to pay for something that I wanted and something that, honestly, it was on the second-hand market, but I would be happy paying that price all day, every day. And this is how you need to look at your collection. Must you have it right now? Or can you wait for a 4K version or something to come out to replace the older version? And then in which case, you can pick it up in the second-hand market. I'll just put that back in its place. Yeah, it's not going to go in, I don't think. No, I'm not going to force it. It's going to stay there until I get around to it later on. So yeah, second-hand market, I definitely encourage newer collectors to go towards. There is no shame in going second-hand market. Now, for things with like DVD and Blu-ray, always check the disc what you're getting, because there will be many scratches on some of these things it may not even play, and at which case you need to say, okay, maybe I should look for a better copy. Maybe this copy is the one for me. But there are a lot of different scenarios where you would have to analyze whether it's the right deal for you. With DVD, you can get them for dirt cheap on the secondhand market at this point. I mean, obviously, if you're collecting things like what I'm looking at over there, which is my wrestling collection, I'll see if I can show you. There it is, bang. Come back around here now. Come right back here. Now, if you're collecting wrestling, obviously wrestling holds its value. It goes up year after year because these things do become harder to find. And as WWE get out of physical media now and focus fully on Peacock and Binge and Netflix deal next year and so forth, digital streaming, these things are going to become rarer and rarer. In part due to stuff like licensing rights for music and, you know, the original event may not be politically correct anymore. I've seen many different things from, I believe it's WrestleMania 15 with the Big Boss Man, the Hell in a Cell with Undertaker. I don't know if it was WrestleMania 15. Don't judge me if it's not WrestleMania 15, because it slips my mind at the moment, but I believe it was WrestleMania. Or was WrestleMania Kane? No, WrestleMania 14 was Kane. Either way, whatever, I'll go off on a track and start trying to track down exactly where it happened. But if it's Big Boss Man and The Undertaker, obviously there's a shot in that where the Big Boss Man was hanging from the cage, the Hell in a Cell. And that may not be seen in a positive light or in a way that's politically acceptable for WWE anymore. So what happens if they say, you know what, for that event, whichever one it was, for that event, we can no longer show this. We're going to remove it from the cut and we're going to go to like a wide shot, or we're going to go to something, or we're going to cut early. What happens if they start changing these events? Obviously, it's under new ownership now, TKO. They might not see value in maintaining the original cut. Whereas if you have it on DVD or VHS, you've got the original cut of that event. You don't need to worry about any changes. Like I mentioned the other day with my WrestleMania 20 video, WrestleMania 20 had a lot of changes to the music. And I went back and watched it on the same day because I was like, I had to re-experience it. That's like my childhood. And I noticed there was even more changes than I initially realized. They had changed, the Dudley Boys dropped the bombshell. That was changed to the generic Dudley Boys theme. Legs for Stacy Keibler was changed to some generic Stacy Keibler theme. And obviously, as I mentioned previously, Victoria's theme, All the Things She Said, was changed as well. This is for WrestleMania 20. And there are some things that have been changed on digital, like Jesse the Body Ventura's theme, I believe, has been changed on the digital streaming releases of WrestleMania 20. And then obviously you have the major edits with the pay-per-view, the end of that pay-per-view with Chris Benoit winning the world title. That's obviously not going to be promoted ever again. That's going to try to be kept in the dark if it can because of what happened with Benoit. But this is the thing. Owning the cut of the DVD, I see that as a viable investment. I see it as a really good investment. And while people might say, Jolly Roger, I get it. It's there. I know it is. You don't have to keep reminding everyone that the Jolly Roger's there. If that was what works for you, then by all means, do what you need to do. But I can't endorse it, and I don't endorse it. And I prefer to have a physical representation of an item or a pay-per-view that I feel strongly about. You just don't get the same feeling as something in your hand. And I know people are going to try to cut that out and try to make a joke out of it, but let's say I wanted to pull out here a movie that's significant to me. Last Cab to Darwin. I worked on this movie. I went out to Broken Hill and helped with the filming of this, mainly because someone I knew on the film was high up the ranks on this film. And I got to work on it. And it was my first film. And I feel very sentimental about this movie. Now, obviously, I needed to have a copy on Blu-ray, and I want to support the official release. But what happens if on movies that I don't even work on? What happens if I want to have something like, I don't know, Wake in Fright? A movie that for many years was lost, and we thought we would never see again. This movie was thought to be lost, until I believe they found a film reel in Hollywood or somewhere. There was a film reel overseas that was not in Australia, and a movie that was thought to be forever lost is now back on a high quality format like Blu-ray. So when you say, okay, but why would you choose that over the Jolly Roger? Well, it's a physical representation of the movie. You don't get this, like, look, you can have it all on a hard drive, we get it. And you can stream it on iTunes, we get it. But I like the physical sensation of, I don't even need the internet to watch this movie. If a storm comes through and knocks out the internet, or if I don't have hard drives, like 10 different hard drives to store films on, I can just pull out the disc, put it in my Blu-ray player. As long as I got power, I'm good to go. But, you know, this is what I'm talking about. And I know this is a movie about tips and tricks, so let's continue on. So obviously, you need to think what you want in your collection. What that part was about was that you need to have what you want to have in your collection. And don't sway because people are convincing you don't need it. Because so often people say, just wait for a sale, don't wait for this, and then it might go out of print. Like, I've seen so many people regret not getting, not getting Bad Boys over here, if you can see that. So Bad Boys 1 and 2, I believe, for many years were out of print. I picked it up early on because I was like, yeah, you know, I'll just wait for a JB Hi-Fi sale. And then as everyone waited for a better sale, I just picked them up and was like, oh, that's good enough for me. Like, I'm saving a few dollars here and there. And then they ended up going out of print, and you saw copies going on eBay for a few $100s. And I was just like, cool, I bought it at the right time. I'm never going to sell them, but they're mine. I have them, they're available to me. And yes, it's not for everyone, but look, how I would recommend collecting is secondary market if you can. If there's movies you can't get on the secondary market, then look at retail, then look at places like JB, then look at places like Amazon, and buy them secondhand, buy them brand new then, if you really want them in your collection. There's no shame in buying brand new retail if you have to. But be aware of the cost, and I would say if I was doing this again, try to budget for it. So I spent a lot of my savings on this collection, and you might be in the same position where you're spending a lot on it. I would recommend saying, okay, I'm only going to spend $200 on this stuff, and you might say, oh, that's a lot of money, and that's whatever. But if you're getting a regular paycheck or something, limit it to $200 and say, you know what, I'm not going to guilt trip myself. If I want to spend the whole $200 on it, I'll spend the whole $200 on it. But if you see a release coming up in the pipeline from JB Hi-Fi or whatever, save the $200 or save a bit of money from that $200 and say, okay, well, out of my next check, I'll have $300 if I've only spent $100 or whatever. And then don't let it go too far. If you get to like $1,000 in savings, then don't just go on a shopping spree. But at least if you have it available to you, you're not going to guilt trip yourself, and you know you're going to be very more precise about what you want in your collection. That's what I would do if I was recollecting again. I would definitely have a budget and say, okay, I can't just buy 84 releases at CEX at Katara, which is what I did. I hold the record for most most items bought in one transaction at Katara CEX. So that's a bit of a fun one, a bit of a fun story that I'll tell at a later point. Essentially, I bought at the store, which was, it kind of did CEX employees' heads in, because it was like late in the day and they were like, oh my god, this is going to take all day to fill these cases, which I understand they have to take the discs outside of cases, but like, I mean, for Blu-ray, yeah, but for DVD, you don't really have to. I mean, no one, if they want to steal a $1 DVD, just let them take it, who cares? And yes, I understand, oh, but that's bad for us. Yes, I get it, but we're in an era where we're trying to keep this hobby alive, and if it happens more than once, at least if they've stolen one from you, you will understand, okay, flag that person, and we'll catch them next time, or we will make sure they can't enter the store next time if they have stolen from you. Advise the police or whatever. But you know, the discs are in there. Just leave the discs in the covers, especially for DVDs. Like DVDs, nobody is, if they're that desperate to steal a DVD, then who cares? It's more with Blu-ray. Yes, there are Blu-rays that can be collectible with CX, and they need to take the discs out to ensure that they aren't stolen. But DVD, come on. Unless it's some high-value DVD like anime or something, there's no need to take a disc outside of the case. But as I was talking about, this was about travel. So how far are you willing to travel to get a good deal? But what I would finish on, because I feel like I'm just ranting at this point, is look for a good deal. Look at the secondary market if you can. If you want to pull a collection like this together, look at secondhand market fully for stuff like this. You can get a lot of good deals. And if you can help it, try to budget so you don't overspend. And there would be a lot of my recommendations. I hope you can take something from this rant, because I know I went off track with this one, as I usually do. But I think people appreciate that I just talk from the heart. I don't script this stuff. I don't have dot points. And yes, people have said, I should script it, I should dot point this, I should do it in documentary style. But it feels like it doesn't feel authentic. I want to talk from the heart, and I want you to know I'm talking from the heart. I'm not talking from a script. I'm not looking off to the side saying, okay, the next dot point, I need to talk about this dot point for a minute. I need to go for this one. I'm talking from the heart. You're getting my true feelings about each thing as I pull it up, and I have a look at it, and I'm like, yeah, I would do this differently. But as I said, everyone's different. You need to understand what you want in your collection. And when you know how much you want to spend on a certain release, like if you say, okay, I want Child's Play on 4K. I don't think that's out in Australia. I think I imported that. What's one that's out in Australia? The Exorcist on 4K. Okay, I want The Exorcist on 4K. And I'd be willing to pay $15 to $20 for that one. If they're charging full price in JB Hi-Fi or whatever, that's not going to work for you. I would say don't budge on what you're willing to pay. I would say wait for a sale. Wait for JB Hi-Fi to do a sale. Wait for them to do 2 for 40. Wait for them to do 2 for 30. Wait for them to do a 20% off. So I would say wait for one of those. And in that case, you'll get a much cheaper deal in the price range you want to pay for it. And you can probably buy another release because you've paid a lot less for the one you wanted. But if you want it up front, if you're saying like, oh, I don't want to take the risk of it going out of stock, I don't want to take the risk of it not getting it, there's no shame in just buying at full price. If it's something you really want, and it's something that you know might be at risk of being bought out during a sale, then in that case, like a steelbook, like many people will collect steelbooks, and many people will be waiting on a sale for steelbooks, or may not even wait for a sale. There's no shame in just picking it up. But I've went for 22.5 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it there, and hopefully you've learned something. If you do have, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, whatever you want to do, leave comments. But yeah, I love connecting with you guys. I do read the comments, and well, I can't reply to everyone because one of my last videos a couple of days ago just completely went insane in terms of views and comments, so I haven't been able to get to everyone on that one. I have been reading the comments though, so I am looking at the comments, but you know, it'll take me all day to reply to everyone individually, which I will try to do if I can, but as the channel grows, I know it's not going to be realistic. Just know I am reading the comments. I am looking at what you guys are saying. If anyone gets a bit too out of line, I may have to stop some people on the comment section from getting too far out of line. But, you know, I am essentially loving you guys engaging with me. I am reading the comments, and I am definitely keeping an eye out on what's going on to make sure that everyone's has a safe space and everyone's just talking about their love of movies, essentially. So thanks for watching me, and I hope to catch you in the next one, because I will keep making these if you guys keep watching. And even though I do go off on rants, I'm sure you guys love it, and you know you're getting authentic talking. You're not getting some talking head from a script. You're getting the real thing. So thanks for watching me, and I hope you'll catch me in the next one. Peace out.